CiviCase. So something that the CompuCorp team have been putting a lot of work into actually for the last couple of years to try and really help take forwards. We've got a couple of sessions today. So I'll just do that. We've got a couple of sessions today. So I'm going to start off by just doing a bit of an introduction to CiviCase, explaining what it can do, and so on. It will take us through to about half past, just focusing really on its core capabilities for casework, basically. And then my colleague Fran, who works in the casework team in CompuCorp, she's going to then talk about using CiviCase for something slightly different, which is for applications processes. So maybe volunteer applications, could be membership applications, I guess, but also, recruitment and things like that, and introducing this Civi Awards kind of extension that we're in the process of building at the moment as well. Cool. Yeah, and Marcelo, I guess if you can keep an eye on questions, if there are any as we're going through, we might not be able to answer absolutely everything. Maybe I can get the questions to show. Get the chat. There we go. No, I can't get the chat. Don't know where the chat's disappeared to for me. Okay, no, I've lost the chat.
Maybe you need to click on the more button, because I think probably have too many options at the bottom, and it just moves to the more. Yeah,
I clicked the chat, but it didn't seem to pop up.
Okay.
Oh well. It's all right. We're being recorded, so I'm not going to spend around searching around the screen. Cool. Okay. So a little bit of background on us. So CompuCorp, we like to say we enable digital transformation in organisations that deliver social good. Specialise in working with CiviCRM, mainly kind of working on the Drupal platform, but also with some other integrations as well. Yeah, just work with a range of different organisations. So membership organisations quite heavily, fundraising charities, of course, arts, cultural, government institutions as well. I just want to take a moment just to thank a couple of organisations for their kind of input into the work that we've been doing with CiviCase. So Healthwatch, the National Education Union, who put a lot of work into helping us to develop this, and also the Royal Society of Edinburgh for the work going in on the awards module as well. So really appreciate that. Also, some of the work that Amnesty did with us a couple of years ago to kind of get Shoreditch off the ground, which was great, and the National Democratic Institute as well in the US. So really appreciate all of the support. Cool. So introducing CiviCase. So what is CiviCase? What can we kind of use it for? We've kind of identified 3 or 4 main areas that CiviCase might be useful for in your organization. And obviously it depends what your organization kind of does in terms of, what's going to be most relevant. So we'd say that it can help you manage some sort of service delivery. So we've used it with a number of organizations who deliver, care services in the local area, maybe support services and things like that. And I think that's where CiviCase's roots, kind of come from, in that sort of area to try and support that. So I think we used it for counselling services and things like that. It can also work for legal case management. It's not a full legal case management system though. So, legal case management sometimes also do timesheets, and there's various other things depending on your jurisdiction that might be useful there, but certainly can get you, a lot of the way there if your needs aren't too complex. And maybe technical inquiries lines as well. So we have a lot of membership organizations who allow their members to phone up, ask questions, things like that. So inquiries lines and things like that. So we kind of call that service delivery. Another good use case is prospecting. So we're not going to talk about that too much today. And there's a Civi Prospect extension that we've created that basically allows you to use cases to manage pipelines, so basically sales pipelines that you would have in any other CRM. So that might be for major donors. It might be for grant opportunities you're applying for. sales partnerships, maybe your or event sponsorships, those kind of things, and you can kind of see those pipelines. You can use it for that. Applications processes. So Fran's going to talk a bit more about that. So it's great when people want to apply to you for something. So that might be if you give out grants. So we know we have a lot of grant giving organizations, or maybe it's recruitment for volunteers, as I said before, or for staff. So we know some companies actually who are using it for recruitment as well. And membership applications. So sometimes membership isn't something that people can just buy online. Sometimes they've got to apply and they've got to go through a committee or something like that. So again, Civi can be great for that. And then actually there's lots of other business process management. And this is why we're talking about unlocking Civi for business process. So you've got GDPR subject access requests, maybe you've got timelines and things like that, event planning, campaigning, etc. So in terms of CiviCase, how does it kind of work? So why do we have CiviCase? And the way to think about CiviCase is that it's like a wrapper around a series of tasks, sometimes called activities in Civi, that can overall have a status in order to track the progress. And you can have some timelines, kind of within the case in order to say, right, we want to get this done within a week, within 2 weeks, something like that. You can record the people involved, etc. So it kind of brings everything together, kind of about, whatever it may be, that particular workflow. And I think the best way to explain this is actually to show it a little bit. So I'm just going to go to a contact record here in the CRM if my laptop can keep up. So I'm looking at John Smith here. And out the box with Civi, you've got your activity feed, and this is kind of your simplest way to record any interaction that you might have with somebody. So here, we had a meeting, we had a phone call with John. The problem is, if that meeting and that phone call was all to do with one thing, it's hard for me to tie it together because this activity feed is going to get lots of things in it. And that's where Cases comes in. It allows you to kind of create a wrapper around those activities in order to say, actually, what I had instead was a case that then has these activities within it. So you can say here, we've got next activity and last activity and so on. Okay. So lots of other things that you can kind of configure with it, and I'll come to that in a moment. So I'm just going to give a very basic overview of how you set up cases. So here you go into your administer CiviCase, you've got your case types, and then underneath the case types, you will be able to set up as many case types as you want. And here I've set up one bit Blue Peter that we use. Here's one we created earlier. So for member inquiries, so let's say that we're going to get member inquiries and that people might want to send those to us. So a few of the things that you can set up here. So the first thing is about the case roles. So who might be involved in your cases? So you might have the case manager, for example, here, and we've set this to is manager, and this will automatically get assigned to the creator of the case. And then you might have somebody else who's involved. So I've just created specialist, and that doesn't get assigned to the creator, and they're not the manager. They're somebody who might get involved at a later point. So you have case statuses. So here you can select from a big long list of case statuses. You can add new statuses. I've got new case in progress, waiting for member, and closed. So those might be the stages that our case can move through. Activity types. So these are kind of those types of activities, those types of interaction that we might want to record on the case. And you can limit the number of those that you want to have. So it might be that something can only happen once. Obviously, a phone call could happen multiple times, but it might be that you do an assessment meeting with somebody, and that can only happen once. So you'll only allow people to put that on once.
Jamie, there is a question here in the chat.
I can't actually see, which is a bit of a shame. I'm not quite sure how to.
Can just.
Here we go. Give me one moment. So is it possible to give different Civi users different levels of permission for different case types? I.e. disciplinary HR case types only needs to be seen by a few people. Yeah, so actually that's really interesting. So yes, what you're able to do is, I'll explain it very briefly, just conscious of time, but you can set up so that people can only see my cases, and then you can assign a case to someone so that they can only see the case that they're manager of. So that's one of the first things. Now, one of the things that I'll talk about a little bit later is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to create separate instances of CiviCase for different purposes, and then the whole thing has its own permission structure. So we'll talk about that in a little moment. So yeah, so I was just talking here a little bit about, so I might do the questions a little bit towards the end, so we keep moving through. Here we've got a new list. So what is this? So this is something called a timeline, and CiviCase allows you to have these timelines. The first timeline is one that will get created when you first create the case, but you can create as many of these timelines as you would like. So what is this timeline for? This timeline is a sequence, or I don't want to say sequence, it's a set of activities that will get created with a defined offset, so a number of days. So what you can do here is you can say, okay, after the case is opened, I want to then, after 2 days, we want to send an initial response. So this will create a scheduled task to happen, and it can even assign it to somebody. And then you could say, okay, well, maybe we want people to research the issue, and that needs to happen within 7 days. Okay. And again, we want it to assign to the case manager, and then we should send an update within 14 days if we haven't resolved it already. So that timeline is something that gets then created automatically when the case is created. And you can create any number of these. There's also something called a sequence. I haven't set one of those up, but a sequence doesn't create all the activities up front. It'll create the next activity when the previous one has been done. So it kind of keeps somebody moving through the steps. There's a few other things here. So who can you assign activities to? So you can select a group, you can limit the case roles so that those can only be assigned to a particular group and things like that. So there's a lot of different things there that you can do. And this is kind of scratching the surface a little bit. So once you've done all of that, then you should have your case type is created here. So this is the CiviCase dashboard. And what it's doing, it's giving me an overview, and it'll list all my different case types here and all the cases and the stages that they are in their process. So you can see we've got one new case, one in progress, one waiting for member, one closed. And so somebody could fill in an online form and they call us up, it comes in as a new case. And then it's kind of on the dashboard here, it's giving me kind of the new cases that have happened this week or this month, so I can see those. Any milestones that are due, so these are particular activities that are coming up, any overdue activities that I need to work on as well. And a little calendar here, which will also tell me when things need to happen that are coming up for me as well. So if I go in and take a look at this case that I created a little bit earlier. And so what's quite nice here with the new CiviCase is that my case list appears on the left-hand side. So if I had more than one case, I can switch between them very easily here by just clicking on the different cases, and it'll update the right-hand panel with all the things. So no more clicking in and out of cases for those who use the existing. So this is then giving me a summary of the case. So how many tasks are open, scheduled activities, our calendar, what I need to do next, if there's a big milestone coming up, what tasks are going on, any communications and so on. And then we've got our 3 tabs, which are giving us some more information. So here is the activities. And if you remember before, I was kind of trying to explain, the case is like a wrapper around this set of activities. So here it's kind of set up these 3 activities, which was that initial timeline. So open case, send initial response, research issue. Those have been assigned to me, the CompuCorp admin. And you can see that they've set up the dates, which are offset as well. So that's all really nice. One of the other things you get with the new CiviCase is when you log into Civi, you get these tabs here. So normally you get the dashboard, but you also get the My Activities. And you can see that these activities or tasks come up here. So when I log in, I can kind of see the task that I'm supposed to be working on. And here I can navigate straight back to the case if they're case tasks. If they're non-case tasks, they don't have the case details. So I can go straight back there and it'll take me back in. Great. Show a few other things. So here is where we would assign the people involved. So here I had the case manager, which is myself, and I can assign a specialist. So I'll see if I have a contact. Let's just go with Mr. Anonymous. That's fine. And actually the case will also show me other relationships. So if the case client has, let's say, family members or is linked to anyone else, you can see it within the case, which is kind of handy. And also dealing with files. So here you can drag and drop, upload, big series of files. So it's designed to be as easy as possible. If you get like a big boatload of files that somebody sends to you and so on, then you've got that there. So a few other little things to show. So let's say we've set up this case and we've got an activity, which is to send an initial response. I can go in, I can send an email, and these emails are pretty powerful. So maybe I've got an initial response email template here that can have tokens in it. send something back. And so one of the new things in the new CiviCase is that I can save a draft. So maybe I haven't finished this email yet. So this will come up as a draft in your feed. And then here I can go back and I can resume the draft before sending it out, which is pretty cool as well. So you can do that for emails or for documents and so on. A few other little things, I can favorite activities here, which makes it nice and easy if the case has got really big for me to kind of get around that list. Filters, you can filter on any field that's there. If you've got activities you've created but assigned to somebody else, then you can split it to see the delegated activities. Obviously, I haven't got any of those here. Those timelines, if I just want to see the activities on a particular timeline, I can filter it to those as well. Bulk actions, so if I want to kind of do something with all of the activities here, I can print a report of them, I can export them, I can tag them, and we'll be adding more functionality there as well. Yeah, and lots of different things that you can kind of do in bulk. Cool. So timeline sequences, talked a little bit about that. Custom fields, so you can always add custom fields to your case. You could have one or multiple clients in a case. You can actually redact emails and communications if you need to, email integration, and deep web form integration as well, forms integration, which I'll talk through in a little bit. So I've mentioned the completely new interface, great. Case dashboard, great. Case summary screen, great. Yeah, on the case, on the contacts, you get a nice little tab, which is a bit easier to get around now, which will list all the cases and gives you a summary of the case and what's going on before kind of taking you off. And yeah, and the case extension actually installs this new activity feed here on the contact record. Oh, this is quite useful as well. It's a little timeline. So if this activity feed gets very long, it allows you to skip, to certain dates and things like that with a little calendar. Yes, activity bulk actions, people involved, support for better contact entitlement. Yeah, send emails, PDF letters to people in bulk from the case. So if I'm on the case here, from this, now I'm able to do things in bulk with these contacts. So if I need to email like 20 or 30 people on the case because it's become big, it's a collective case, there's many people involved, I can do so as well, and filter by role. Cool. And I'll just talk a tiny bit about the Drupal web form integration. So for those who are uninitiated, there is obviously Civi is integrated to your CMS, to your website platform. And when you do that, it opens up a lot of possibilities. Now, there's with Drupal and with WordPress, there's two very deep integrations with form builder modules. So form builders are where you're able to create electronic forms, which could be for public people to fill data in. So we work very heavily with the Drupal web form module. Others probably work with the WordPress Caldera module. We were talking a little bit about this in the membership room earlier. As part of the work that we've been doing with cases, we've been doing a huge amount of development actually of the web form integration to support a lot of different things, which opens up a lot of things. I blogged about this a little bit before, so it's worth checking out this blog that's on the CiviCRM website. I haven't got it to show. But some of the things that you're able to do include being able to send a link in, let's say, an email that goes to a form that is then pre-populated when somebody fills in that form, when they follow the link. And what that means is actually you can get people, if you want to go back to the case client, you can get them to fill in more details on the form, and that goes straight onto the case. So rather than exchanging emails with somebody and then having to get that email data in, you can actually just send them to a form and say, hey, I need this information, please fill this in, which is really cool. But you can also use it internally if you wanted to as well, just in order to change the workflow. So that's something that we do as well. So auto-loading cases by passing the ID, checksum tokens. So that is those personalized form links. Auto-loading cases, the case roles. And basically you can use that form to pretty much do anything that you want to update on the case afterwards. So you can get that form to then send off 3 emails to different people because it's been filled in. You can get that form to update some case roles on the case. You can get it to update the data on the case. So really powerful. And yeah, the new case button can be diverted to a report. So there's also, as part of it, we've created a new report, which is kind of a pivot table report. So cases with activity pivot chart. So again, with the new cases, you can get that. Allows you to kind of look at your totals of cases by status, by role, who's involved in it, any custom field or any field that you have on the case, to get really good management information about how your cases are proceeding as well. Cool. So just on time, I think I've got two minutes just to wrap up. So one of the big things, so that's kind of using CiviCase, and actually the new CiviCase gives you some extra features, but most of that was available out the box in CiviCRM already. And whilst the new interface is a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner, does a little bit more, you could do most of that stuff with the original CiviCase. The big leap that we've done, and this is replying to that question a little bit as well, is to make CiviCase possible to have separate instances for different teams. So if you remember back to those different use cases that I suggested, one of the challenges that you might have had with the previous CiviCRM, or just doing with CiviCRM out of the box, is that if you want to use CiviCase for multiple things, actually you're a bit snookered, because once you've kind of done anything with one of them, it's very hard to make it useful for the others, and there's no way to separate out the permissions, as you said. With the case instances, what that allows you to do is have completely separate instances of CiviCase for each of those purposes. So what you can see here along the top is that I've got cases, but I've also got an instance for awards and an instance for prospects as well. And actually, you can create as many of those instances as you want. So maybe you want one for events, prospecting or something like that, different team. And each of those instances has their own permissions. So if you go into the Drupal side, it'll show different permissions for each one of those instances. So it's really powerful in terms of really unlocking, being able to use CiviCase for all of these different things. Cool. I think, Marcelo, if I'm not mistaken, that's all of my time.
Yes. Yeah. Right on time. Yeah, 1:40.
So I'm going to hand over to Fran, who's going to talk us through a little bit the applications processes and using Civi Awards. So one thing I'll mention about it is that there's a little bit of elbow grease. Some things are things you could just install with the extension. Some things are built because they're based on Drupal. And we won't get into too much detail about exactly, but about the self-service portals and things like that. So there might be some things that if we want to get those, it might be worth having a chat about how to do some of those things. Fran, are you all set there?
I am. Let me just share my screen.
And maybe with the questions, we'll try and answer some of those at the very end if people want to stay on afterwards. Might be a good way to do.
Yeah, there's quite a few questions that I've got through.
I can see lots of things.
Cool. Thanks, Jamie. So I'm Fran. I work on the Casework team at CompuCorp. I've been working here for about 6 months, so I'm a bit of a newbie to this, but I'm going to demonstrate today how CiviCase can be used for managing application processes. And I think Jamie's already run over this, but so when we say application process, this is any time a person applies for something in your organization, and it's not when you're applying for something from somebody else, which would be prospecting. So yeah, prospecting, which is another instance of CiviCase. Some examples of applications, as we talked about, are recruitment, so staff or volunteers. There's memberships, which is where you maybe have to go through a series of steps to become a member of an organization or something. And then awards and grants, which is applying for money. So I'm going to talk about the awards process today. And just to give you a bit of a background of where we're at in CompuCorp, the build process. So we split the process into 7 chunks, and we're building it in 3 phases. So the first phase is the application process phase, which is in green. The second phase is the panel portal phase, which is in orange. And the third phase is the finance phase. So we are almost done with phase 1 and 2, and phase 3 is subject to future funding. So watch that space. Hopefully next time we'll have something to show, but we'll see. Cool. Okay, so just going to switch screens and go through a demo with awards. So with, I don't know if Jamie mentioned this, but unfortunately it's not as simple as purely installing the extension in this case, because the panel portal needs some build work to implement. But if you are interested in getting awards or instances, please get in touch and would be happy to help out, and probably quite excited for anyone. Cool. So I'm going to work through, with the awards process, there are kind of 3 different roles that we use. So we've got the awards manager role, which is kind of administrator. They create the awards, they create the application forms so the applicants can apply for the awards. They manage the back end, which is all done in Civi. Then there's the applicant role, which is the person who's filling out the application form for the award. Then there's the reviewer role. So that's the individual who's going to be reviewing the application form through the panel portal. So I'm going to move between these different roles and try and, I hope I make sure that I tell you which role I'm in. So I'm going to start with the awards manager role. So here we are on the awards dashboard. You can see it looks very similar to cases, but it's slightly different. We've got a few different filters here. So I'm going to filter to all awards so you can actually see what these come up. So we can see here along the top are all the statuses which the application or the application process steps really. Then we've got a couple of awards here. So the first step in the process would be to add a new award. So here you click this button, create new award, but I'm going to go into one that we've made already so we don't have to fill everything out. So this is for an award for travel, or a travel grant really. So I guess some people call awards grants, they're the same words for the same, different words for the same thing. Okay, so in your award configuration, you've got 4 tabs. The first tab is basic details, which is basically your metadata, award title, the awards manager, so the individual who you assign to manage this award. The second tab is the award stages. So this is all the application steps that the application goes through. You can select the steps that you would like your award to have. You can also add more, so it's all configurable. The panels tab I'll come back to later. And then we've got the review fields. So these are criteria for the application to be reviewed against, and these are configurable as well. So this is what your reviewers will be filling in. Cool, so we've created our award. The next step is to create an application form. So here we've got a tab at the top called the SSP Awards Dashboard. So that's the self-service portal, which will navigate you through to the self-service portal. It's quite easy. And here you'll see this has got a list of all the application forms. And if you want to create a new form, and as Jamie said, I'll just show you what it looks like. We use Drupal web forms. And so if you're used to using Drupal, this will be recognizable for you, which is good. But I will show you one that we've already configured. So here we've got the conference travel grant. So you can see the status when it was created. There's also this action at the end. So we can go in and view this form, which I'll open up in a new tab. So here we have the application form, and we've got, because I've created this form, you can see the Drupal kind of tabs along the top. So you've got different fields for the applicant to fill out as they're coming in. So that's kind of the first few stages for the awards manager. So now we're going to switch to the applicant role. So we're going to fill out this form from an applicant's perspective. So I'm going to move through. So I'm just going to sign in as the applicant will have different permissions, which is important. And so they come in. Okay. So we're now in the self-service portal. They'll have the URL, and this will be the form that they'll see. So they won't have any of the configurations. I'm just quickly going to go through and fill out some information. As we've got prepared earlier. And at this point, am I receiving Any other funding, I'll say no, but I'm not sure, I'm not quite ready to submit my application, so I'm going to save draft. And you can see here your submission's been saved. So then I can go back to my application screen, and as an applicant, I have all of my different applications, and we've arranged them to be split out between drafts and submitted applications. So here you can see there's a whole list of submitted applications. And so I'm going to go, I'm ready to submit my form. So I'm going to go and continue the travel grant, and you can see all my details. And actually now I am in fact receiving funding from other sources. So yes, didn't give any details, but so now I've submitted my application, and you can see here I no longer have this application on my list. But if I come down to submitted applications, and I can filter for travel grants, you can see here now we've got travel grants new application status, and off it goes. So that's the kind of the applicant role all done. It's in, so we go back to the awards manager. And so the awards manager will be managing all the applications which are coming in. So here you can see we've got manage applications, so they'll be seeing all these, hopefully all these applications coming in for their award. So we're going to come through. So here, maybe you're managing several different types of awards. So I'm just wanting to look at travel grants at the moment, and I can see that there's a new application that's come in. So I'm going to come and have a look. So as an awards manager, you can see you have an overview of the application. So these are the details that I filled out. As you can see, you've got all the details here in the summary. Scroll down. As soon as the application was submitted, I've already set it up so that I'm assigning the awards manager role to manage this application, and then you can also see the applicant here. And then the final tab is the reviews. And so this is where you can add a review, and you'll see here, these are the fields that we configured at the very beginning when we set up our award. So I'm just going to show you, fill that in. One is probably great. So we give high marks for this, and you can see here we've now got this review, and I can view it and edit it and delete it as the administrator. So you'd expect that this is from the administrator or the awards manager's perspective, but they're probably not going to be actually reviewing these applications, and rather they're going to be setting up a panel of reviewers to leave a review through the panel portal. So that is actually configured as part of creating an award. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and apologies, this will, as a manager, you'll have these filters set up correctly. And I'm going to go back to the travel grant. Okay, so the final tab is the panels. And this is where you can add a panel of reviewers. So here you'd click on add panel review. We've already got a couple here, so I'm going to go in and edit one that was already been created. There's 3 tabs in the panel. So there are 2 ways to create a panel. Firstly, you can use a group of contacts, which is just here. So if you've got a group of people that you already know, you can put them in, but it's more likely that you're going to create a panel through a contact relationship. So for example, you'll have an organization, which is a committee, and you'll have a number of different individuals who are members of that committee. So that will be set up through a relationship. And you'll want to set up the panel so that all of those individuals that are on the committee will be on the panel. And so you can do that here, and you can add more as well. So you can have several relationships set up in that way. The second tab is the applications tab, and this allows you to limit the types of applications a review panel can see in the portal. So say you've got 3 stages of an application or of a process, and there's 3 review panels that you've got. And this panel is only going to be seeing the very first stage. So here, anyone in this panel will only be seeing new applications coming in. And then the final tab is around permissions. So we've allowed it so that if your if you want to anonymize your the people applying, then you can tick this button and your reviewers won't be able to see the names of your applicants. And then you can also here decide what statuses your panel can change the application to. So if they're in the first panel, the first review stage, you might only want them to be allowed to change the status to the second stage so that then they can move the application through the process kind of naturally once they've finished their review. Cool, so that is, we've got our panel set up as part of this award. And so I'm going to flick back. So the third role that I talked about was the reviewer. So I'm going to flick back to the portal and I'm going to log out of the applicant and I'm going to log in as a reviewer. Cool, so this is now the panel portal and you can see here we've got a new tab, review applications. So if I click on that as a reviewer, I probably maybe send a notification. So here I've got one review you can see that's come in. I've reviewed all the other ones awaiting review. Maybe if you've got hundreds of reviews that you're doing, you might want to use some of the filters to make sure that you're getting only awaiting reviews, the ones that you have to review. So here, there's a couple of actions. We can view application, review application immediately and update the status, which is what I talked about. So I'm going to start by viewing application. And here, again, you can see the same fields that the applicant has filled out with all the answers. And in fact, here we can directly go in to review the application from this screen as a reviewer. And the same fields come up. So I'm also going to give some high marks for this. I think this is a good application. And here is submit, it should be submit review. That's something that we've got to fix up. This is work in progress still. So I'm going to submit my review and I'll get a nice message saying review submitted and go back to my applications. So now you can see all applications have been reviewed. And if I want to update the status of this application I've just reviewed, you can see that I want to move it through to the next stage. So it's past my initial review. I'm going to update the status. And that's all good to go. So back to the award manager. And I think the final thing, we can just quickly have a look. So one last thing that you might want to do as an awards manager is you've got all of these reviews coming in, and it's a little bit slow. So you can see I've got another, okay, this is, it's like, they've already updated the status, which is great, but I can come in and I can see this review, and this one actually, in fact, has two because I added my initial one and then the reviewer has added theirs as well. But you might actually want to see an overview of all the reviews coming in. So we've created a report here. I've created a report to show you a summary of all the reviews. And you can configure this the way you would like to. As a starter, you can see here I've got all the different review fields and the reviewer coming in. You might want to add the applicant name as well. But yeah, it's basically what I've got. I think I'm under time. I guess we've got time for questions then.
Yeah, I've been doing my best, Fran, to try and answer the questions in the chat as you've been going through. Yeah, I think that some questions around what you need to do in order to get this started. So the history of this project, because it's actually been going on for a number of years, is a bit complicated. So there are two new CiviCase extensions, not to get confused between them. One, which is in the extension directory, which is called CiviCase 5. I think that's not actually the one that you want. And the best place to go to is to get the latest one from the CompuCorp GitHub. I'll have a word with Josh and the core team about maybe getting that updated to try and clear that up. But I know that there are some sites using the older CiviCase 5 as well, so we don't want to confuse things for them. So that's a point. And then how does Civi Awards work? Well, that's kind of another extension that needs to be put on top, which is then relies on the main CompuCourt CiviCase extension. And both of those rely on, just while we're working on this house of cards, is the Shoreditch theme extension as well. So I think you need to have that installed. It doesn't need to be enabled. I think it just needs to be installed in order for it to work. And there are some discussions going on. We had quite a long conversation with the core team and some other members of the community around kind of having more flexibility for WordPress and Joomla, so that potentially these can work, you know, kind of without necessarily needing Shoreditch, because my understanding is that Shoreditch is not fully WordPress or Joomla compatible at the moment. Cool. Don't know if there's any other questions. Or did I manage to answer everybody? Can't believe that. Great. So yeah, so that's been fantastic. I can't find the award extension. Oh, if you have a look at the link a little bit above, I put it in the chat. But I'll try and do it. I'll send around an email afterwards. So we were hoping to ask for a little bit of feedback afterwards. So we'll send an email with a link, just to let us know what we did well, what we did badly, maybe what we should talk about in the future and things like that. So any feedback that you can give would be really massively appreciated. And with that email, I'll probably put a couple of the links in, and maybe a link to the slides and maybe the recordings online, in case anybody wants to check back through everything. As we said, yeah, we'll hopefully, you know, plan another one of these in the next couple of months, probably focusing on membership side of things, actually, because we know that's another really complicated area. We've done a lot of work on that side as well. And in the meantime, yeah, if you have any questions or anything like that, then just send us an email. I'm not sure we could quite do weekly, Andy, but you know, we'll see how we'll get on. Yeah, that's wonderful. So thank you all so much. Lovely to see so many of you here. Brilliant. Cool.
Thank you.